you so much. You can have a seat here this morning. And I'm going to invite you to go to Numbers chapter number 32, right? Chapter number 32, if we can. While you're finding your place, I was thinking a couple of days ago and really kind of just decided to use it as an introduction. I came across a story of IBM, and it kind of reminded me, if you don't know what IBM is, it was kind of the granddaddy of computer companies prior to Apple and stuff. I mean, they had these massive, of course, I was not even born probably when they were in their golden age, if you will. And even in the 90s, I'm seeing a lot of you laughing because you're like, you're young, and I am. I won't go the other side of that, all right? No, so you may know a little bit about IBM, but yeah, it stands for International Business Machines. They had these big machines. I mean, they needed air conditioning units just to get them running. I mean, is the way that it was. The kind of the big wig when it came to the big name in computers, obviously for Apple and Google and Microsoft and all that stuff took off. But I ran across the story, and I'm hoping that it makes sense for the passage here this morning. But in the early 90s, IBM kind of hit the struggle bus, if you will. Some of you may have caught wind of this, I guess, when all of it was throwing down. But, I mean, obviously, that as a company, their sales were down. I mean, their products in a lot of ways were outdated, if you will. And basically everyone within the company were basically saying the same thing. They needed to split up. I mean, the company had just gotten so big that basically it was hard for them to function. And so the goal was if they could basically break into smaller companies, they could maybe have one company for computers, one for software, one for services and such. And honestly, the decision in the groups and the leadership team and such, and the business gurus who were all throwing their opinions around, it made sense on paper. It really did. I mean, for each division. But as I was reading the story, this is what was so intriguing to me. They got a new CEO whose name was Lou Gerstner. Does anybody know? Okay, all right. So Lou Gerstner basically took over IBM at really a crucial time, and he basically listened to all the ideas. I mean, he saw all the same pie charts and stuff going on, and came to a completely different conclusion. It wasn't that IBM was getting so big. It was basically that, like, the company had stopped working together, basically, at the end of the day. And so he wrote a book. You can look it up later. There's a lot of memes out there. There's memes about everything. But it's called Who Says Elephants Can't Dance? And that's an intriguing title. But he basically talked about how the company had become that. It had become so large, but basically had stopped moving together. All the teams were basically chasing their own goals and their own divisions, and they had lost sight of the bigger mission of the company. That at the end of the day, that was basically at the heart of it. And so basically he got the whole team back together. He said, hey, we're not splitting up. We're coming back together. We're getting on mission. And a lot of people look at Lou Gerstner as being somebody who really saved the company in a lot of ways. Now, one of the things that I drew from that story was that a lot of those men who were a part of the decision-making process, who basically threw out the idea, it's not that they hated the company. It's not that they were looking to burn IBM to the ground. It's that in a lot of ways they had become preoccupied with their own divisions, right? I mean, it's what made sense for their individual decisions and divisions. But what Lou Gerstner was tapping into is that they weren't seeing, basically, they didn't realize how that was going to hold the company back as a whole and the whole mission. And it kind of led me to this, and this is really where I want to go for the sermon. Sometimes the smart move in the moment isn't always the right move for the mission, okay? Sometimes the smart move in the moment isn't always the right move for the mission as a whole, okay? Now, the reason I bring that up is because Numbers chapter number 32, it kind of, in a lot of ways, as I was reading over it this week and studying it, it kind of has at the heart of it what I just described. Basically, you had a couple of families within Israel itself who had some solid plans on paper. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. But they had missed really some key details that Moses brings up that could have basically thrown off what God was trying to do through his people. And so Moses basically has this pretty heated but much needed powwow with the people to help get everybody back together and moving forward, okay? And so I feel like in my heart this week that the Spirit put and kind of led the direction of this sermon, and I feel like it's a very timely and needed sermon for our church. And so if you have your Bibles, and hopefully you do, Numbers chapter 32, I want us to jump into this and look and see how this kind of unfolds here this morning. Now, I was only gonna read verses 1 through 5, but I actually want to read verses 1 through 15, okay? Because I want you to be able to hear Moses' speech as well. So let's start in verse number 1. I know this is a little bit lengthy, but I'll try to move through it pretty quick. It says in verse number 1, "Now the children of Reuben and the children of Gad had a very great multitude of cattle. And when they saw the land of Jazer, the land of Gilead, that behold, the place was a place for cattle. Children of Gad and the children of Reuben came and spake unto Moses and to Eleazar the priest and unto the princes of the congregation." And so they're going to list in verse number 3 all this area that they're speaking of. Adaroth and Dibon and Jazer and Nimrah and Heshbon and Aleah and Shebam and Nebo and beyond. All right, man, that's nobody's calling towns that today, which I'm very grateful for. I'm okay with El Paso, all right? Now, even the country which the Lord smote before the congregation of Israel is a land for cattle. So they're speaking to Moses here, and thy servants have cattle. Wherefore said they, if we have found grace in thy sight, let this land be given unto the servants for a possession. But notice what they say, and bring us not over Jordan. Okay? And Moses said unto the children of Gad and to the children of Reuben, shall your brethren go to war? And shall you sit here? And wherefore discourage ye of the children of Israel from going over into the land which the Lord hath given them? That's verse number 8. Thus did your fathers when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to see the land. For when they went up unto the valley of Eshcol and saw the land, they discouraged the hearts of the children of Israel, that they should not go into the land which the Lord had given them. Okay, so he's kind of reliving this deja vu story that had happened just several chapters earlier. And the Lord's anger was kindled the same time, and he swears, saying, surely none of the men that came out of Egypt from 20 years old and upward shall see the land which I swear unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, because they have not wholly followed me, save Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, and Joshua the son of Nun, for they have wholly followed the Lord. Now he's kind of given a little bit of the story that we already know about somewhat. But this is a big speech that Moses is given, okay? So he keeps it up in verse 13. And the Lord's anger was kindled against Israel, is what he's saying. And he made them to wander in the wilderness 40 years, until all the generation that had done evil in the sight of the Lord was consumed. And behold, ye are risen up in your father's stead, an increase of sinful men, to augment yet the fierce anger of the Lord towards Israel. For if ye turn away from after him, he will yet again leave them in the wilderness, and ye shall destroy all this people. Now, I wanted to read that because I think it's important that you hear all this as we're going through the story. But as you could probably notice as I was reading through this, the chapter opens basically by two main tribes, Reuben and Gad, who, it doesn't sound like a bad problem, but they had too much cattle, all right? They had too many cows. If you can imagine, if they were in West Texas, these are the dudes that are rolling up in the F-250 King Ranch edition with the cattle racks on the back, and they got dusty boots and spurs. They were ranchers. Okay, this is what they did, and obviously, verse number 1 talks about the fact that they had a multitude of cattle. Okay, so this was, in other words, they had a lot going on, right? As ranchers, they had a lot of cattle. Now, one of the things is, as they are hanging out, if you will, on the east side of the Jordan, they hadn't gone into the promised land, they begin to realize that the land on that side of the Jordan was actually really good for raising cattle. It was perfect. Prime real estate for grazing and all that. Now, here's how you can kind of imagine it. Texas is a pretty diverse state. It would be like the desert of El Paso going into like the South Texas hill country, okay? Basically where they're camping out on the east side would have been like the rolling hills. It had water that went right through the Arnon and Jabbok rivers, which were right there to feed the flocks. I mean, if there had been some sort of top 10 places to ranch in the ancient world, I mean, this would have been at the top of the list. And so basically, this is where they want to camp out. Now, one of the things that I begin to think about this week is that not only was this a prime place to raise cattle, kind of came with some pretty good selling points too. I mean, think about it for a second, right? I mean, we've already seen Israel go through some battles already. Sihon and Og, who dwelled and lived in this area. So you can kind of say, not only was it good for ranching, it was move-in ready and in a safe neighborhood, right? And in a lot of ways, I mean, they had already this piece of property that they're looking at here, the hard work had already been done. I mean, the enemies who used to live there were gone. The land was cleared. I mean, all they needed to do was unpack and enjoy the sunset, right? And you talk about a safe neighborhood. Not only had the previous nations been taken out already, but and what Moses is going to hint at here in just a minute is that, I mean, if they stayed here, their families could settle down. I mean, their kids could play outside without having to look over their shoulders and wonder if a nation is going to come and take them out. I mean, no more battles, no more giants to face. We don't have to go over the land. We don't have to cross the river. We don't have to fight those guys over there. We're fine right here. Now listen, from every practical angle, this made complete sense. Complete sense, right? I mean, if you're a cattleman, I mean, it's green over here, it's dirty over there, it's dusty over there, right? I mean, it makes complete sense. I mean, for your family and safety and all of these different things made complete sense. So, I mean, as they approached Moses, you almost imagine him thinking, giving them the thumbs up and let's move forward with this thing. But basically, as they begin to kind of pitch this idea to him, I mean, you can almost imagine his eyes kind of squinting as he's listening to this. Maybe his face starts to get a little red, jaws clench. I mean, he basically, I mean, almost like this little vein in his forehead that starts pulsing. He's not feeling the housing proposal, all right? Moses is not. I mean, he's angry. And listen to me. It's because Moses, he's not hearing, hey, this pasture is nice, we need to settle here. Listen to me. Here's what he's hearing. We're good right here. You'll go on without us. He's hearing something completely different than what they're saying. And what I read to you this morning is almost like this 10-verse rant by Moses, if you will, about these plans that they have to camp out here. Now, maybe as we were reading through, I know I paused a couple of times, but maybe as we're reading through here, you're thinking, dude, Moses, take a chill pill, man. Like, relax. Like, be happy for these guys. I mean, they found a place where their family could live and where they could, succeed in their business and all these different things. And so when Moses goes off here, listen to me, Moses is not being cranky. He didn't wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Moses was a passionate leader who loved God's people, who was passionate about God's name, and he was passionate about God's plan through his people. I mean, think about the story already that we've seen in Moses' life. I mean, Moses was the one who had led them. Moses was the one who had prayed for them when God said, we're just going to take them out and start over. I mean, Moses was that guy who stood in the middle many times for them. He had fought for them. And I imagine probably at times wanted to strangle them, right? But he loved these people. And as the leader God had chosen for Israel during this period of time, Moses knew that his job was to help these people move forward together in the plan that God had for them. Notice what I just said. He knew that his job, one of his jobs, was to help God's people move forward together in the purpose that God had for them, the plans that God had for them. And so, I mean, here they are. I don't know how many times I've said this in a sermon. I mean, here they are standing on the east side of the Jordan. I mean, they could just rocks throw away from the promises that God had for them and the plans that God had for them. And there's two tribes that are standing on this side saying, we're good. I think we'll stay here. Right? So when Moses hears this, right, he doesn't hear smart business move. He sees a massive spiritual danger, a massive spiritual threat. He saw a threat, as we're going to see, to their unity. He saw it as a threat to the obedience. And more importantly, he saw it as a threat to the forward momentum of all of God's people together. This sort of settling on this side of the Jordan. And That's why he says in verse number 6, look at it again. And Moses said unto the children of Gad and to the children of Reuben, shall your brethren go to war? And shall you sit here? I mean, come on now, that stings a little bit. I mean, you can see what he's saying here, right? I mean, are you going to sit here on this side of the Jordan and enjoy your cattle and enjoy your honey and your milk on this side while your brothers go across the river and risk their lives for each other? I mean, that's what he's saying. My point is this. This was not just a housing choice. This was a massive red flag for Moses. Because God's mission, listen to me, God's mission was not some sort of you do you kind of mentality. This was not you do you and whatever makes sense to you, that's what you should do. I mean, this was God's mission through his people was all hands on deck. Every tribe and every family, and they were to be fighting shoulder to shoulder for the land that God had promised them. It was a shared mission, and it was a shared responsibility. Every tribe had skin in the game. Remember last chapter? Remember how they picked them? There were 12,000, 1,000 from each tribe. We already got an indication that when God begins to lead his people, they're supposed to be doing it together. And so now you have two tribes on this side saying, we're good. We'll stay on this side. And Moses knows this, and I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself here. But what Moses is, this frustration that Moses has is because he knows that the moment that one group stops fighting, then oftentimes togetherness begins to start cracking. When one group begins to sit out, it doesn't lighten their load, it begins to double everybody else's. So you can see, I mean, he's saying, hey, you're not sitting this one out, right? Like this isn't just about your solo comfort. This is about the shared calling that we have together. That's what he's saying by, are you going to sit here while your brothers go out and fight? There was a shared responsibility. Listen to me this morning. There was a shared responsibility when it came to God's mission that they were beginning to abandon. And he said, you can't do it. God has called us to move forward together, okay? But it wasn't just about the family mission. Okay, listen to me this morning. This is so important. It's been heavy on my heart all week. It wasn't just a threat to the family mission. What Moses began to see was that it started to become a threat to the forward progress of God's people. I mean, what these guys were suggesting, right on the brink of entering the land, it sounded way too familiar. That's what his whole speech is about. He's like, dude, we've already done this. I mean, you can see him rubbing his temples going, we've already relived this. We've already seen this movie. We've already watched how this played out. It was like Moses was having this sort of deja vu moment from 40 years ago. When he sent the spies out to go see the land, and they came back shaking in their sandals. Right? Remember how the fear had spread, so rampant. I mean, you watched how just 10 guys and this small, if you will, discouragement in their own hearts begin to spread, and it led to widespread discouragement amongst God's people. So you can see why he's upset. He's saying, we've already lived this, and you're doing it again. You're beginning to, and what he's saying is this, if they were to stay on this side of the Jordan, their settling, if you will, might discourage the other people from actually moving forward. So it wasn't just about, hey, we should be doing this together. It was also about this. Their level of wanting to stay on this side and not move forward might actually discourage God's people from moving forward altogether. Does that make sense this morning? Okay. So I guess my point is this. Moses is not trying to micromanage their ranching dreams, but what he is saying is this. Their discouragement could have impact. And every single one of us know that this morning. Our choices, oftentimes we like to think that they're only impacting us, but the reality is this, oftentimes our participation or non-participation is impacting those who are around us. It's impacting not just the mission, but it's impacting the forward movement of God's people together for his purposes. So what he's saying is this, the first time around it was, we can't do this, right? That was the mentality. But now he's saying it's the same thing, but just a different tone. You're saying we don't need to go any further. We're good right here. Both stopped short of where God was trying to lead them as a nation. Both risked dragging the rest of the family down with them, and both could have landed the people, what Moses is saying, both could have landed them right back into the 40-year wandering thing again. Same, different spiel, same story. Now, as you read this, and I hope you're picking up on the tension, right? Like you're either going to think, Moses, you are a crank, you need to relax, man, or you're going to see it as Moses did, a level of spiritual threat to what God was trying to do in their nation as a whole, right? So it's easy for us. I mean, let's go with the first part of this for a second, right? It'd be easy for us to say, man, I mean, these Israelites, I mean, come on now, like just go over the land, just fight and all those different things. But the reality is this, oftentimes in our life, we do the same thing, right? I mean, now listen to me here this morning. This is my heart, all right? So I'm going to ask you to pay attention just for a second, okay? Because this is my heart, man, this week, and as God laid this on my heart. You know as well as I do that we are not like conquering land. We're not out there trying to get, to build a nation or any of those different things. We're not strapping on swords and marching to claim territory. That's not God's mission for us. But just because we're not fighting physical battles doesn't mean we're off the hook. God has still called us into mission today. It just looks different, right? It's not about expanding a nation, but listen to me. It is about building God's kingdom. It's not about fighting flesh and blood, right? Paul is pretty clear about that, right? We're not fighting flesh and blood, but the reality is we are standing firm in a spiritual battle and a war that is happening all around us. I don't need to remind you of this. You know what the enemy does and what he continues to do, right? He does what he's always done, and steal and kill and destroy. He blinds minds. He distracts hearts. He convinces people that they don't need Jesus. That's the world that we live in. And right in the middle of that battle, listen to me this morning, God has called us as his church to step in and to make a difference, to step into that chaos with the hope of Jesus Christ. He's called us to preach the gospel, to live the gospel, to share the gospel. I was thinking about even today, Herbert getting baptized, right? I mean, how awesome is that? I'm so pumped about getting to do that together here today, right? So it's not just about sharing the gospel, it's baptizing those who believe, and then not just saying, all right, see ya, right? But also about teaching them to observe everything that Jesus taught, right? That's our mission. It's to help followers of Jesus grow stronger in their faith. And then as believers to shine as lights in the darkness. Jesus calls us to be salt in the earth, right? Okay, salt changes the environment it's in, just like light does. So he's called us to impact the environments that we're in. Right now, the reality is that, I mean, as a church, and I'm talking about us in the room here this morning, because reality is there's a lot of followers of Jesus that are going to churches elsewhere today, okay? And I think that's a great thing. So I can't speak to them, but I can speak to you because you're here, all right? The beauty of a local church. There's a lot of things that we can do and I think that we should do as believers, right? I mean, I think we should help people, and I think we should serve, and I think we should give, and I think that we should be good neighbors and all those different things. But none of those things replace the primary mission of our church, which is to help people meet Jesus and then help them grow as a result of that. That's our mission. And listen to me, it's not a solo mission. It's not a solo mission. It's a family mission, right? I mean, God's called you right here. If you're a part of Sun City or if you're new, hopefully I don't scare you off, all right? But I'm telling you, as part of this church right here, right? Like God has brought us together and to work shoulder to shoulder and family by family and side by side to do life together and to do ministry together to carry out his purposes in the world and to display his glory in the world. Do you believe that here this morning? Do you believe that here this morning? God has brought us here to carry out his mission in the world and to display his glory in the world. Man, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to come back to this here in just a second, okay? But as I was reading this story, I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, it's like Moses goes off, and it's almost like, man, just somebody help him, man. Like, give him a cup of water. Like, go outside and take some breaths, Moses, right? But we need to pay attention to what he's concerned about. That's my point here this morning. Moses isn't just worried about two tribes missing out on God's plan, because what we're going to get to here in a second is they actually do settle here. So Moses' point is not, he's not worried about them missing out necessarily on God's plan for themselves. He's worried about how their decision to settle would affect everyone else, especially when it came to this responsibility that they had and the forward movement of God's mission in the world. And listen to me, that principle still holds true today. I'm going to say it again because I think I've already said it. But when one part of God's family starts to sit still, it begins to slow down the whole family. When one person checks out, oftentimes somebody else has to carry the extra weight. I was thinking about, we went to Panera Bread last night, and that's where me and Miss Alex actually met. And she was my trainer, by the way, and we got married. It worked out. But I was thinking, going through the drive-thru last night, and I looked in the window, and it was like chaotic in there. I mean, somebody was throwing sandwiches, and it was just insane. I remember those days when we were doing that, and it never failed. There was always the one guy who'd go to the bathroom during like the busy lunch rush. You know what I'm talking about? I'm like, dude, are you serious right now? Like, you go ahead, we'll take care of it. Don't you worry about it, right? And I know it's kind of funny. But sometimes, and I don't, hopefully I'm saying this right. I mean, I was praying that I would deliver this in the right way. But sometimes that's what happens in churches. When a few people try to do everything, right? They end up worn out, while other people, listen to me, while other people oftentimes miss out on the joy of being a part of what God is doing. And listen to me here this morning. This is not about guilt trips. This is not about pressure. All right, I'm not twisting arms. I'm not saying there's a sign-up sheet where you volunteer on the way out this morning. That's not my heart. Because, listen to me, at the end of the day, this is not about my mission. This is not Pastor Micah's vision. This is not about our leadership team's dream out there. This is not Sun City's organizational mission out there. This is about pushing forward God's mission in the world, which is much bigger than mine. And listen to me, He's chosen to carry that mission out through his people together. So when we serve and when we give and when we show up and when we pray and when we encourage other people and we begin to use our gifts the way that God has designed us and wired us, you're not just helping out. You're not just running the ministries of this church, right? Because it's much bigger than this. It's about advancing the mission of Jesus in the world. But the other side is just as true. I don't want to be confused with Moses, some crank, but the reality is this. Sometimes when we choose to do what's safe, when we choose to live comfortably, when we choose to live based on what doesn't stretch us or what doesn't cost us anything, not only do we begin to miss out on the joy of being being a part of what God is doing, but listen to me, settling oftentimes begins to create this obstacle for other people who do want to move forward. It can. There's a level of potential danger when we begin to settle that we might actually become a stumbling block to those who are around us who might actually want to move forward. Because listen to me, passion is contagious, but so is discouragement. Passion is, but so is discouragement. So, yeah, I mean, we might look at our decision and we might think, well, that's not a big deal, or I'm just busy right now, or, I mean, I can handle this. And listen to me, it might look wise on paper. It might look smart. It might look like a smart move or a solid plan or some sort of well-timed break in our life, but you never know how that sort of lack of participation, listen to me this morning, lack of participation in God's mission might ripple out and slow down those who are right around you. And slow down the momentum of what God is trying to accomplish through his church. I'm not talking about the church out there. I'm talking about the church right here and what God wants to do through us. I'm going to skip a couple of things to say this. I said it on Wednesday night, and I think I want to say it again. God didn't call me to be your life coach, all right? Like don't come to me and ask me how to change an engine or do all those different things. God didn't call me to be your life coach. He called me to lead, to feed, and to protect this congregation, right? It's one of my main jobs. And part of that, listen to me this morning, part of that is shooting straight with you. Out of love, right? Shooting straight and being honest with you out of love about the mission that God has called us to. Sometimes to bring, I would say, when it's based on Scripture and led by the Holy Spirit, to bring certain wake-up calls to our own hearts. I'm not here. God didn't call me to come up here and give you a cute, feel-good sermon to send you out into the week tube. I'm just not into that. I don't think that's what God's called me to do. What God has called me to do is, and placed our family here to do, is to challenge all of us, to call us to be a people who fully engage in the mission of Jesus Christ. Together. To fully engage. And listen to me, I'm passionate this morning about seeing this specific family step into everything that God has for us. I believe that God has more for you. I believe that with all my heart. He has more for you. He wants to do more through you and through us together. But there is a real danger when God's people begin to stop short of the place and the potential that He's calling us to. I feel like I'm kind of saying a lot of the same things. But I really feel like this is what God wanted me to share with you here this morning. Right? When I listen to Moses here, Numbers 32, I can't help but see some of the same tendencies. Not always in our church necessarily, but I'm talking about creeping into churches today. The same sort of attitudes and behaviors that threaten what God wants to accomplish in a big way through those local congregations. I'm passionate about it, and I believe that Moses was as well. Now, here's what I want to end here this morning, okay? When Moses gives this spiel, if you will, in chapter 32, 1 through 15, there's really that's really just half of the chapter. Chapter 16, verse 16, I should say, kind of picks up the congregation. I mean, if you can imagine, Moses just land blasts them. So you're almost expecting, okay, what's going to be the comment back, right? Like, how are they going to move forward, as they went forward? Now, as I mentioned earlier, you can either read this as Moses being some sort of cantankerous dude who just needs to chill, or you can see this as people who had good plans but needed to adjust them based on God's larger mission, which I think from verse number 5, if you look at it, I think is at the heart of it. Verse number 5 says that basically they said, we're not moving over, right? And so that explains so much why Moses does in fact confront them in a lot of ways, and the potential danger that it might cause to the entire family. And so in verse number 16, it's almost like they kind of adjust the way that they're thinking, okay? So they don't, and notice with this, and this is why I wanted to bring it up. If you look at verse number 16, they don't tell Moses like, okay, Moses, you're right. We'll sell the ranch. We're going to go over with all the family. They don't. They actually love this piece of land, and it's perfect for raising cattle. But they did, in fact, adjust their plans by realizing that the plans that they had needed to align with God's mission through the family. Does that make sense? Okay, so basically here's what they say. Like we'll make sure our families are taken care of, and then we're actually going to go forward and fight the battles with the rest of the family. And that's exactly what they do. And if you read in Joshua 22, they do. They fight with all the family, and they come back, and God actually gives them this piece of land that's not technically part of the promised land. It was on the east side of Jordan. But I love this, and here's the reason I bring this up. They didn't ditch the dream for God's mission. Okay? Does that make sense? They didn't throw out everything that they wanted to do and just simply follow the purpose. They found a necessary balance between the family responsibilities and the things that they wanted to see accomplished and spiritual participation. Does that make sense? That's important, right? Because sometimes when we think about like being involved in the mission, it's like, oh, we just got to burn everything that we've ever done, or we got to cancel this league, and we got to do this in order to be a part of the mission. But that's not what this chapter is indicating, right? That they actually did settle while still being engaged in the mission that God was giving them. So this wasn't about choosing between. This wasn't an either or. This was about refusing to abandon the bigger family's mission while pursuing their own family's dream. Does that make sense? It was not about abandoning the bigger mission through God's family while pursuing the agenda of their own individual families. So Reuben and Gad and the half-tribe of Manasseh did exactly what they said to do. They stayed engaged in God's mission through his people and still settled in the land. And I guess this is where I want to encourage you this morning. I mean, I've talked about a lot of the tendencies and stuff and good intentions I think that can creep in and slow us down. But my heart this morning is not to stand here and to list everything that you're doing wrong or that I'm doing wrong, right? It's not my heart. My heart is to push us, listen, to live fully present in this world, to love your family, to enjoy your life, to enjoy your gifts. Take the vacation. Do it. Do it. That's okay. Coach your kids, run races, travel, grill in the backyard, do it all. But listen to me. But do it with his mission still front and center. Does that make sense? Right? Because just like those tribes, it's not about choosing either or necessarily. It's about keeping God's purpose through his people woven into everyday life. I was reading this week in Colossians chapter 3. Many of you may know this verse. It's verses 1 through 2. This is what he says. If ye then be risen with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ sitteth on the right hand. Notice what he says here. Set your affection on things above, not on things on this earth. Okay? Now he's not saying don't live on the earth, right? It's about affection, about where your love is. Like where your purpose is, where your energy and your time and everything is being funneled to. Right? Affection on things above. Man, having this level of eternal perspective in your daily walk. Right? Matthew chapter number 6 says something similar. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But listen what he says. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. And then he goes on in verse 21. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Okay, he's talking about loving what lasts. Living with an eternal perspective in mind. And I hope this is making sense. Because this wasn't about Reuben and Gad choosing wrong, necessarily. And they were doing what was best for their family. But they lost sight of the greater mission through God's family at large. Does that make sense? Okay? So for us here this morning, I'm saying sometimes we can do the same thing. And I don't think that we're evil or that we're doing things bad. Right? But sometimes in our own lives, we can get caught up in our own agenda as families, as individuals, and we begin to lose sight of God's greater mission through his family. And it's important that we learn to balance both. That we give attention to our family responsibilities, no doubt, but that we also focus in on the eternal agenda through Jesus Christ. Does that make sense? My whole point, this is the whole sermon, is enjoy life, but engage in the mission. Enjoy life, but engage in the mission that God has given us. Maybe the question here this morning isn't, am I busy? I'd imagine if I asked that question, every single one of you are going to be like, yeah, man, I am. I'm doing this and running here, and right? Every single one of us are. My question is, are you busy about the right things? That's the bigger question. Are you participating in the mission of Jesus, or are you somebody that's watching from the bleachers? Right? Are you fighting shoulder to shoulder with the family that God has placed us in, or have you drifted, sipping lemonade? Right? Shall you sit here while the rest of the family fights? Not being confrontational this morning, I'm just being honest. Ask yourself, is your level of commitment, is it pushing other people forward, or is it quietly slowing down the momentum of what God's trying to do? I think those are honest questions this morning that we got to answer and do some heart reflection. I just want to encourage you this morning, enjoy the life that God's given you, but don't forget the mission he's called us to live for. Side by side, family by family, shoulder to shoulder, as we engage in the mission that Jesus has given us. So hopefully that makes sense here this morning. Let's pray. Lord, thank you so much, God, for, Lord, this story, and even just right towards the end of Numbers, God. I know I've looked over this passage several times, just maybe didn't fully understand it or whatever. But God, would you help us here this morning? Lord, I know it's not comfortable, and I could tell, Lord, even this morning, it's not a super comfortable topic, and I get that. But God, you didn't call me to be liked, you called me to be honest, and to in truth and in love share, Lord, what is how your Holy Spirit leads. And Lord, I just believe that if maybe there's somebody here that just needs to hear that. They need to hear about, Lord, whether or not they're participating in your mission through your local church, or maybe it could just be that their level of involvement is discouraging those who are around them. It could be. Lord, I'll let you convict and challenge where you'd like to do that. But God, would you help every single one of us, at the very least, to do a heart check, to see, God, if our commitment is real, and if it's, Lord, if it's based on a motivation of your Son and the love that he's shown to us, God, would you help us not to be afraid of sacrifice? Would you help us not to be afraid of commitment? Because oftentimes, Father, you know this, Lord. It's what oftentimes leads, Lord, in the mission that you've given us, Lord, to us being able to fulfill that in a great way. Lord, I believe that the people that are here, the people that you want in this church, Lord, I believe with all my heart that you're calling them to more. I believe that you're calling them to greater involvement, greater participation, greater, Lord, contribution to the mission, not to our church's mission, but to your church's mission. So would you help us to be reminded of that today? Or would you help us not to leave here just brushing it off and moving on? But would you help us to consider, to be honest with ourselves in our schedules, in our time, in our effort, if we are contributing to your mission and doing it shoulder to shoulder with those that you have called us and placed us around. So we love you, Father. I pray that something here this morning hit home. And would you help us to enjoy life and engage in the mission that you've given us? We love you, and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Thank you so much for your attention here this morning.